Generally, though not in every case, each of the 19 ways in this book promotes the idea that the brain evolved for, is itself, and will always be dedicated to movement. The best reason to start there is the simple physical and verifiable fact that a human brain's only outputs are the muscles it connects to. Whether the small ones that dart the eyes back and forth, or the lumbering thigh muscles that kickstart a walk. No matter what goes into a brain, only movement ever comes out. And though I believe that this is the correct starting point for understanding consciousness, that it can be fully understood from the brain's parts and their goals, this starting point is by no means universally agreed upon. There are as many possible lenses to translate the details through as there are ways to hold a lens. Here, every chapter points towards an explanation for a few moments during the neurosurgery described in the Nature article. When a still-awake patient had her brain carefully prodded by an electrode, capable of producing blasts of electricity, and altering both her behavior and arguably her consciousness. Throughout this book, I will call the anonymous patient Anna. Only her initials, AK, are given in the original article. As a whole, the arguments and ideas in this book represent some of the most popular or plausible theories of how consciousness arises, works, feels, or degrades with use or error. Each chapter does not align neatly with any one theory or thinker, and some theories find their way into multiple chapters. In part, this is necessary because the many theories of consciousness today are as varied as the scientific fields they draw from, a funny quirk of human reason. For those studying the origins of life on the seafloor, for example, consciousness may be the natural interactions of pH, proton pumps, and evolved metabolic efficiency over time. But another theory, from someone who happens to know psychology and decision-making well, may be explained by lots of org chart-style boxes and arrows. To those scientists who study attention, perhaps consciousness is the mathematical equivalent of a spotlight. To those who study eye movements, it might be the grand effort to cancel out self-generated movement. To those who study flies, it could be as probabilistic as a population of midges' decision to go left or right or loop back on itself. To those who study songbirds, it might be the cognitive consequence of the rewiring of language learning loops, and so on. There are, in other words, almost as many theories as there are thinkers out there. I can be clear about my biases too. I spent the better part of a decade doing laboratory research on a tiny parasite that infects mouse brains, and maybe makes the infected host mouse prefer the smell of cat urine just a little bit more than they had before. Thus, I am a mind control parasite guy. I think in host-parasite terms and relations. I think of free will as something like a river's current with a natural direction and kind of physics to it, which also can, under the right conditions, be redirected. However, with Wang Wei's original poem, which is lost to history, I believe there is still a way to inch closer to an unknowable truth, guided by the sense that one is on the right track. For this reason, some chapters are explanations of consciousness as a single allegory, comparing the evolution of consciousness with the evolution of the game of pinball, Chapter 2, or even to a small town, Chapter 10. Other chapters base the explanation on the latest scientific research into how a brain controls a body's movement, Chapters 3 and 17, or on how consciousness arises from waves of electrical activity, Chapter 4. Language learning, Chapter 12, causal power, Chapter 14, or efficient compression of information, Chapter 11. Some chapters seek explanations in the physics of temperature and prediction, Chapter 8, or in the quantum realm, Chapter 15. Others propose that the best clues are found in the minds of learning robots, Chapter 18, or in the mind of a cat with thousands of toes, should she lose some of them, Chapter 16. Others consider why removing